Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today to our alumni interview Q&A. Every month, we talk to an alumni on Facebook Live and ask them questions about their experience as a Manor College student and how Manor College prepared them for their career and life outside of Manor after graduation. Today, I am really excited to be joined by someone from the class of 1984, Beth Runkle. Beth has found her way working and having a career in county and state government. And we're excited to hear more about her roles and her duties around that. So welcome, Beth. Thank you for joining us today. How are you doing?
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me. I'm doing very well today. It's a gorgeous day and I have my windows open at my house. So that's always a nice thing, not to have to sit in air conditioning all day.
Absolutely. It's been beautiful the past few days. So Beth, tell us about your experience at Manor College. Tell us, how did you first hear about the college and what compelled you to study there?
Okay, well, I wanted to go into the secretarial field. My mother had been a secretary for an insurance company. So that was why I chose Manor. I was very lucky that I had somebody who did a lot of the footwork for me at the time, I'll be honest. It was my stepmother. She ended up finding the college, and because we didn't want something that was too far away. I only live about 2 hours away here in Lancaster County. And it was a very eye-opening experience. I only had a few months of, oh my gosh, I can't do this because I had never been away from home for any length of time. But the environment at Manor, the students that go there, it was something that really encouraged me to stay. And by Christmas break, I didn't want to even come home. So, it was a very, very nice experience for somebody who had not been away from home and had not had anything like that for any length of time, except, staying at your grandparents' house.
Right. A little different than staying in a college dorm. So you were a student in the mid 80s, living in the dorms, and I believe the school was it co-ed by then, or was it still all females?
I think they had a few male students, but mostly it was all at the dorm itself was all female. And at
Right.
that time too, we had a nun staying on the third floor of the dormitory. So she would come down and make sure that we were behaving
Yeah.
ourselves down in the second floor.
Do you remember any like different kind of rules you had to follow living in the dorms and any kind of interesting, guidelines you had to abide to?
I'm going to be honest and say no, though. We had a student who, of course, broke that golden rule. She had a boyfriend hang out in her dorm room one night, and that was a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, I don't remember there being too much in the way of rules and things at the dorm.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So you said your stepmother found the college for you, and you being from Lancaster, that is a bit further. Most of our students, even today, still come from the greater Philadelphia area, and maybe even a tighter radius than that of being like Northeast Philadelphia. Because we're such a commuter school, a lot of students have to be able to get here, via car or via public
Mhm.
transportation. So we don't hear about too many students coming from Lancaster County. Every now and then a few, I feel like, but never an overwhelming amount.
Mhm.
Was there any like culture shock or, just things that surprised you from, we're now kind of closer to Philly and just different things like that?
Well, I have to say, riding on SEPTA was always an experience. I ended up doing an externship in my second year, and I had to take a bus to the SEPTA, to the train station, then down to Philadelphia for that. And it was really, I was nervous about it, but once you started doing it, it really gives you a sense of independence because when you don't do anything like that, and then all of a sudden you have to if you're going to be doing this externship, and it was really, I'm so glad. I mean, this coming to Manor was one of the best things that probably happened to me. It really expanded my self-confidence. And I also, as weird as it sounds, I actually, all my friends that I have from Manor are people that were in the second year already. So
Mm.
I actually connected more with them than I did with some of my own classmates. And we still get together every few months.
Oh.
So.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, we love hearing about like alumni gatherings and, friendships that have sustained many years later, and how
Mhm.
wonderful is that to hear. So tell us about, were there any things that you were involved with when you were on campus, like any clubs or activities that you did, or any kind of student groups?
I was not very athletically inclined, even if
Mhm.
today it's still the same. But I did actually, I was in the choir at that time, and I really enjoyed that. I do still love to sing. So that was one of the things that I was involved in. And I also went to the chapel on Saturdays, because that religion is a very important part of my life.
Mhm. That's nice to hear. That's great, and we actually we resurrected a Manor College choir a few years ago. We haven't had one in a while, and then one of our staff members, Tara Quigley, who is our director of student engagement, she found the Manor College alma mater, and the song that I guess, I don't know if you remember singing this or the song, but it was a song, it was an alma mater song that she found. So then we practiced singing it, and a small group of people sang it during one of our Founders Day celebrations in January. And now
Nice.
it's something that's sung twice a year on Founders Day, and then also at commencement every year. So there's definitely some more ways to try to get a choir back. And we still have our chapel on campus, and it is used frequently for many different things, whether it's a liturgy or a prayer service or just different things throughout the year. And there is weekly prayers as well on Wednesdays in there too. So it's nice
Nice.
to see that some of those traditions are still alive and well and have kind of evolved a bit. We even did some virtual prayer services this past semester, praying for Ukraine and things
Mhm.
like that in the world. So that was really good to see. So Beth, tell us a little bit more about how did you transition into kind of like your first job after Manor, and what kind of led you into this career path?
Well, I do have to say that part of my, I don't know, can't think of my mantra or whatever is I like to be helpful. I like to help people out. So being in the secretarial field, at least in the days in the, 40 years ago, it
Hmm.
was really, you were not only the secretary, but like if they needed something, if they needed you to do something that helped them to continue on with their work without being interrupted, like if they want a cup of coffee or anything like that, I still even now do that. I'm not obviously not in the office as much, but, part of it is a service industry to me as
Hmm.
well when you go into the
Hmm.
secretarial field. And that is something that is is something that I really enjoy doing. Helping people. Um, when I got out, like I said, when I was trying to find a job, I got interviewed, and this was the first job that I interviewed for. They hired me, and
Hmm.
I'm relatively certain that Manor helped me get that position. And at that time, that was 1984. I earned $5 an hour, which was pretty nice for 1984. And it just, it was funny. I was at that time, I was the top-notch person who knew how to use the computer, and everything like that. And nowadays, I'm like, where's that IT person?
Right,
I'm
right.
looking for that younger person like you saying, hey,
Hmm.
I'm trying to do this and I know how to do it, but it's these little insyncrasies. But when I started, that was me. And a lot of people would come to me to help. And I got that all from Manor, those computer skills.
Mm. Well, that's great. That's great to hear. So where was your first job, and what was your role? Obviously, secretary for what though?
I was the secretary for the Lancaster County Planning Commission. I would help them to schedule board meetings and things like that and do letters. And then and schedule calls and things like that. And do reports. I'm trying to remember back that
Hmm.
far.
Hmm.
And I actually, when I was there, I ended up getting into another position, which was a little bit more advanced, and working directly with the chairperson of the Lancaster County Agricultural Preserve Board, which
Hmm.
in Lancaster County preserves farmland. The difference between if a plot of land is farmed versus if they would develop it, there's a gap between those two. And what the county would do, this is before it was a really big national thing, they'd pay the farmer the difference between those two things, and then they could never develop their land and put houses on it. So that's one of the big things that I worked on for quite a while when I was working for the county. And then I ended up getting involved with somebody who was going to school in Shippensburg at the time, and it's like it was a very long haul between here and Shippensburg. So we ended up working. I decided to go to Harrisburg, and after a few interviews there, I ended up in Department of Education. So, and I worked for the Bureau of Special Education for almost 22 years. Off and on. I actually worked there for a while, was off, had my second child, and then went back. They hired me right up. So I was there until 2019. And then I ended up, because there's limit, depending on where you are in county or state government, is the possibility of advancement can be smaller just because there's not as many roles in a particular area. So I ended up moving into the Office of Post-Secondary and Higher Education as an administrative assistant. So, and like I said, I still do a lot of the things that I did from the Bureau of Special Education, but it's a lot more calendar heavy because, when you're working for the deputy secretary, she needs to have a lot of support on that. And then working with other agencies or departments within the education has been, I mean, I already had a lot of those connections already. So from working in special ed. So it's been I have enjoyed my careers, and I know that Manor definitely got me the foothold into the county government position.
That's great. That's so cool to see. So as someone who's worked in education, at a pretty high level for a long time, how do you view Manor and the importance of a school like Manor in the landscape of higher education in Pennsylvania?
I believe because your institution does a lot of work with those students that are in the Philadelphia area, and because there's obviously a lot more concentrated, and you provide them with a lot more opportunities for assistance and either working there at the school. I know I had, for at least one semester, I did work study. Now I ended up, I guess I'm imagining the professors liked me because I actually had 3 jobs when I left Manor. I was working, doing like 2 part-time ones, and I was helping somebody with something else. I actually left with like $250 in my banking account. So that was pretty impressive. But I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunities for students to advance themselves at the college. And I believe that you're a good stronghold and a foothold, I should say, for them to move on to something else. Even though I didn't go on into another institution from there, I think you provide a good baseline for students to go if they wanted to continue and get into something more individualized and specific. Then I think that is something that Manor helps students to achieve.
Yeah, I think that's something that we hear frequently, is that Manor is a great launching pad for something, whether it's becoming a nurse, whether it's going into becoming a lawyer, a business. We now offer bachelor degrees, so we are seeing a lot of students are choosing to stay at Manor for 4 years to get a bachelor's degree, but there are plenty too that are a 2-year associate's degree, and we want to be still that really great higher ed option for associate degrees too, and particularly career focused, really career focused. Yeah, so that's really cool to hear. Beth, what is your advice for the current Manor student who is off for the summer and thinking about coming back in the fall, and they've lived through a few wild years of COVID and just education looking different and virtual and hybrid and all those things. What would you say to encourage them to keep at it and obviously keep pursuing their college degree?
Well, a lot of the fields that they would be moving into really require them to have those skills, computer skills, working with people skills, because I believe Manor really does provide a whole option, an array of items that can help the student to achieve and get further into their careers than just getting into a beginning job. I mean, I don't like a lot of change. That's why I really haven't moved through a lot of positions, but I really enjoy where I am. And I think that says something for the students to, they don't have to move on, but I mean, I think it's better to do that. I think making, like you were mentioning earlier, about having connections with your professors. I think they're a lot more connected nowadays than when I went to school. I mean, I had a good rapport with my professors, but I didn't really do I didn't have to interact with them too much after school And because
Right.
internet was not that big when I was, it was really
Right.
just starting up when
You
I
just
left.
saw them in class and that was it. There wasn't like
Mhm.
emailing them or, it was just being friends with them on LinkedIn. There wasn't all those ways to engage. Now there's
Yeah. And
so
I
many
you know,
options.
and I know, professors know that their job's not a 9 to 5 job. You have to help and be supportive of these students as they move forward. And they
Mhm.
should take advantage of going back and saying, hey, what do you recommend on this, or following up on that. And it also is helpful to know that students don't have to be by themselves and don't have to feel like they're alone, and
Mhm.
having all these links and such to get together, and like Facebook and everything else. I mean, there's so many ways to stay connected, and it's important to do that and to really encourage them to always get more professional developed and expand their knowledge. I mean, that was one of the things too with government. You always had the opportunity to take a course and, you know, better your skills on something. And it's something that Manor, I'm sure, is offering not only just regular classes, but those additional classes that help students to expand their knowledge base.
We now have certificate programs where students can say you're a business major, but you want to be a certificate program in data analytics. You can kind of get that on top of your degree. And we are rolling out these certificate programs that are really workforce focused and give you those very specialized skills that to add on to your degree, exactly like you said, to make sure that you are being prepared as best as we possibly can.
Mhm.
Tell me about your friends that you still stay in touch with from Manor, and how are they doing, and what's that been like being friends with the same people for 40 years. I know I have some of my college friends, they're my closest girlfriends, and
Mhm.
it's just like the best. And just tell me about that.
It is. So 2 of them were court reporters,
Mm.
which has really changed a lot now since from 1984. I mean, they're doing so many different things with that. And then one of them was a legal secretary.
Mhm.
She actually, because she stayed in the area, so she was able to get, positions like that. And she became a paralegal
Mm.
and moved on through that, through some various stages of that. The one girl's still a court reporter. She's still doing that. It's getting, like I said, it's changed a lot. She was telling
Yeah.
me, we were talking about that. I was up there a couple of weekends ago, and we were talking about how much it's changing and what they're going to do.
Mm.
Especially now since it's virtual,
Mhm.
it's even easier to have them just record it and then have somebody transcribe it after the fact and such.
Sure.
And then the other girl who was a court reporter, she ended up going into the family business, but I'm
Mm.
sure Manor really provided her with that background of, you know, the computer. I mean, to me, the
Mhm.
computer skills that they provided back in 1984 were just a phenomenal thing that helped me
Mm.
to be able to easily get into the working field and be able to get a position with the county
Yeah.
government.
That's
So, but I
great.
mean,
When you guys all get together, do you ever like reminisce? Did you all live in the dorms together and that kind of thing?
yes, we were all in the
Mhm.
dorms. We generally get together. One of the things that we did now, that this is back now. I don't know what grocery store you have now, because I know Gennardi is not there, but we would walk down to Gennardi.
We have a giant
Okay.
now.
Okay.
Mhm.
So we would walk down to the Gennardi down there, and we would get, snack food or whatever. And then our thing was we would sit and play pinochle. We play
Uh,
four-handed pinochle. That's what we
uh-huh.
did. We still do that. And at the time we would buy a container of Oreo cookies, and we would count them out. Everyone would get a pile of Oreo cookies, and then
Nice.
we would play pinochle. I still am always the weakest link, so to speak, in pinochle. Just am.
Oh, that means you get more Oreos, right? You get sympathy Oreos or
No,
something.
they didn't give me, no. We were pretty protective, and they were double stuffed Oreos. And that was a big thing at the time. They just started out with double stuffed Oreos. So that's a big thing.
Oh, that's great. Do you remember any of the sisters that either you had as professors or any of the staff that were sisters?
I remember sister Cecilia the best. I
Hmm.
know she is passed. Actually, the one girl that went to the school, that was her aunt, was
Oh,
her dad's sister. That was pretty
uh,
cool. Now,
okay. That is
she didn't come and hang out with us or anything like that,
right,
but
right, right,
it was really cool to know, hey, I know you pretty personally, kind of deal. So,
right,
and she was
right.
very nice.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed, just everybody at Manor was so welcoming, and, you
Hmm.
know, just provided so much opportunity for me to be able to succeed later.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear. And I think Sister Cecilia in those days was probably not the president of the college yet. She was still a history teacher,
I think, or it was really close to her
or just
having,
became president.
yes, it was really close in there. Yes.
I think she was 85 to 15 was her reign.
Okay.
But yeah, she passed in 2020, and we miss her dearly, but she was just a wonderful person. And we're all so blessed I got to work with her, and it was just really
Nice.
special woman. Well, Beth, thank you so much for talking to me today. It was really great to just reminisce and hear some great stories about Manor and your days. And it's so cool for me, and I hope others that are watching, to see that the ways that Manor educated students 40 years ago, there's still so many ways that that's still true today. And while obviously a lot has changed, it's really neat to see that some good things remain the same. And those, the attributes of preparing students for life is still there. So I'm really encouraged by that. And I hope anyone else who's watching is as well. Beth, I wish you a wonderful summer, and thank you so much for talking to us. Have a great day.
Thank you, Kelly. You too. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are done live streaming. So thank you, Beth, so much.